Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new, and welcome to another bookish video. So today I thought I would go through my 22 books for 2022, or in other words, 22 books that I need to read this year. These are all books that have been on my TBR for quite some time now, my physical TBR, books that I really want to get around to, ones I'm really excited for, ones that I probably put on my monthly TBRs like 100 times and just never gotten around to. Just 22 books that I'm really excited for that I really want to read this year. Obviously we've got quite a few books to talk about today, and I do have a tendency to waffle, so I'm just going to get straight into it and I'm going to try and keep it short and sweet. So if you'd like to hear about the 22 books I want to read in 2022, then just keep watching. So first of all, I have 6 books on this list that I have already spoken about in my previous video, which was my 5-star predictions. I will link that above for you if you want to go and watch that to hear more of my thoughts on these books, but I'm just going to quickly run through them because I have already discussed them. Those are Kingdom of the Wicked by Kerry Maniscalco, The Humans by Matt Haig, The Wolf Den by Elodie Harper, Summer Bird Blue by Akemi Dawn Bowman, Every Heart a Doorway by Shauna Maguire, and The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. So these are all books that are on my 5-star predictions for this year. I do intend to get around to them as soon as possible, and I do hope to really love them. So obviously they are a priority for 2022, but like I said, if you want to hear more about these books and about how I am feeling about them, then you can watch my 5-star predictions video. Okay, so next I think I'll go through all of the thrillers that are on my sort of 2022 TBR. So first of all, I have The Escape Room by Melanie Golding. This one I have heard about so much. I've heard very mixed opinions on it, but it is kind of one of those thrillers that you hear about all the time. If you are a thriller reader, you tend to have read it and have some sort of opinion on it, so it's kind of ridiculous that I have not yet read it. So it's basically about 4 high-flying business people, I believe, on Wall Street who get stuck in a elevator escape room with very deadly games in order to get out. Lots of secrets come to light, and ultimately one of them within there is a killer and they have to find out which one it is. So I think it's supposed to be quite dark and sinister and obviously thrilling as well. I have heard really good things, but I've also heard really bad things. So yeah, I really want to read it and form my own opinion. Next up I have The Little Friend by Donna Tartt. It seems kind of silly that I have this one on my TBR before The Secret History. I have not read The Secret History. Believe me, it is a priority for me, but I do not own it, and this is more about like my physical TBR. So yeah, The Little Friend is one that I picked up in a charity shop, and I purely picked it up because it is Donna Tartt's book, but also because of the cover. I just think it is so creepy and I really want to get round to it. So this follows 12-year-old Harriet, who lives in a family who are all still reeling from the mysterious death of her brother Robin 12 years earlier. She is having a very difficult childhood because obviously the family are still trying to come to terms with this, and they've all been damaged in different ways by it. So Harriet sets out with her best friend on an adventure of some sorts to try and find out about Robin's murderer. However, what starts off as like a childish game becomes very dark as she gets caught in a very scary underworld of a small Mississippi town. This one again sounds really dark, really sinister, and also I do really enjoy books that have a child main character and experiencing what is going on in a very sort of like menacing plot through their very innocent eyes. So yeah, really excited to get around to that one. Next up I have I Found You by Lisa Jewell. If you know me at all, you will know I love Lisa Jewell's books. I don't always give them like the highest ratings. I think the lowest I've given is 3 stars, the others have been 4 stars, but I just really enjoy her books. I fly through them, I really click with her writing style, and I also always find that I am still guessing right up until the end. So this one follows Lily, who is being married for 3 weeks when her husband mysteriously does not come back home, and she is stranded in a new country where she knows no one. Then we also have Alice, who finds a man on the beach outside her home with no jacket, no name, no idea who he is or where he has come from. But it says, who is he and how can she trust a man who has lost his memory? So this one just sounds like another classic Lisa Jewell book, since it's going to be exciting, it's going to be a page turner, one that is going to keep me guessing right until the end. Next I have The 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle by Stuart Turton. Again, I have found mixed reviews about this one, but the good reviews are like really good. This one follows the character of Aidan Bishop, who is at a party, I believe, where every day he is too late to save Evelyn Hardcastle, who keeps getting murdered every single day. Once she's murdered, they go back to the start, and Aidan once again has to try and save her before her demise. And each day he wakes up in the body of a different guest, so he'll have like a different vantage point on what is going on and struggle to try and find Evelyn's killer before she dies. This one sounds really, really exciting. I love that sort of like Groundhog Day idea. I really enjoy films like that, but I've never read a book in that sort of format, so yeah, excited. Next I have The Wicker King by Kay Ancrum. This is a YA thriller, I believe, and it's one of those ones that is kind of like a comment on what is real and what is mental health, I believe, which again is something I really, really enjoy when it's done right. So we follow Jack and August, and Jack begins to see very vivid hallucinations, and August tries to help him by buying into these hallucinations and believing everything he is seeing about this fantasy world he is living in. They go on a quest to fulfill a dark prophecy, and together they alienate everyone around them as they struggle with their sanity, free falling into a surreal fantasy that feels made for them. In the end, each one must choose his own truth. So I feel like it's going to be a very good exploration of their relationship, their friendship, as well as ideas of mental health and a very tense atmosphere as well. And also, this is what I love about it most, is like the more they descend into madness, the blacker the pages get. Oh. Which I think is just like really, really cool. So yeah. And finally, in the sort of thriller horror-y area, I have The Year of the Witching by Alexis Henderson. I'm not going to say much about this book because I think I've talked about it about 100 times on my channel now. I've put it on at least 3 TBRs last year, each time really, really meaning to read it but never getting round to it, so it is just a must for this year. Okay, next I have a couple of contemporaries that are more on, I suppose, the sort of intellectual side. I think I had quite an easy reading year last year. I had a lot of romance and thriller, but I'd like to read more sort of like social commentary type books this year, so I have a couple on my 22 books for 2022. The first one is An American Marriage by Tayari Jones. I've wanted to read this one ever since it came out, and it was shortlisted for the Women's Prize for Fiction in 2019. This one follows newlyweds Celestial and Roy, who are the embodiment of the American dream, but then Roy is falsely convicted for a crime that he does not commit. He is sentenced to 12 years for this crime, and while he is away, Celestial is obviously left like devastated, alone, unsure what to do, and she begins to find comfort in their friend Andre. However, Roy's conviction is then overturned and he comes back home, ready to resume their life together. So I think it's just going to be a sort of exploration of what comes after that, how they deal with what has happened to them as a couple, and obviously a comment on a young African American couple in America and the trials and tribulations that they go through. Next I have Sula by Toni Morrison. I have been meaning to read a Toni Morrison book for as long as I can remember. It's absolutely ridiculous that I have not read any of her works yet, but this one is one that I am really looking forward to. Again, it is quite a comment on the lives of Black people in America. This one follows two young girls, Nell and Sula, who have lived in the poor Black Midwest all of their childhood, but then Sula runs away to sort of live out her dreams and Nell gets married. 10 years later, Sula returns to this small town and no one trusts her, least of all Nell. And she is branded as a witch within this town because she has power, confidence, everything that a woman should not have had at this time, especially a young Black woman in this town. It's all about this rural Black community and ideas of femininity and race as well. I just think it's going to be such a beautifully written book if it is anything like what I've heard about Toni Morrison's writing. Next I have some romances, because of course I need to get some romance in this year to sort of fluff up all of the dark and dreariness that I'm reading. So first of all, I have Red, White and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. Again, this is one that I've been meaning to read forever. Obviously it was a huge sort of YouTube, BookTube sensation a while ago and I just never got around to it. I'm quite bad when there is a lot of hype around a book. It kind of puts me off it rather than makes me want to read it. I don't know why. This one I'm not going to say too much about. I actually don't know that much about it, other than I think it follows two young men, one who is like American royalty and one who is actual English royalty, and I think it's kind of a hate to love. They have like this fake Instagram friendship maybe? and then obviously it gets a bit saucy. Yeah, that's about all I know. I think this will be a really quick read and hopefully an enjoyable one. Next I have I Heart New York by Lindsay Kelk. I've been meaning to read this series for so long. I've heard such good things about it. I think it's going to be the sort of series when I start it I'm not going to want to finish it, and I think I'm just going to like power through all of the books and really enjoy them. So this one follows Angela after being cheated on by her boyfriend. She gets on a plane and moves to New York City all by herself, and then she finds herself falling for, or at least dating, 2 different guys in this city and writing about it on her blog, Carrie Bradshaw style. So yeah, it just seems like a really fun read and a really intriguing one. Okay, next I have 2 books by the same author. I'm actually thinking of doing a reading vlog for these 2 where I read them both in one week. Kind of like an author taste test, but kind of not, because I have read books by this author before. But if that's something you'd like to see, then please do let me know. The books are The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo and One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid, obviously. I have read this one before, kind of. I listened to it on audiobook when I was on holiday, but I feel like I didn't get the full experience of the book because I was on holiday, I was by the beach, by the pool, I wasn't paying it the full attention it deserves, so I really want to read it physically and get everything from it because I know it's going to be one that I absolutely adore. Again, I don't think I need to explain this one because it is an absolute classic, but the other one is One True Loves. This again has been on a couple of my TBRs. It's actually on my TBR for January, but I doubt I'm gonna get round to it now. This one kind of reminds me of An American Marriage in its premise, but obviously very different at the same time. We follow Emma, who marries her high school sweetheart Jessie. They are a very happy couple, everything seems great, and then Jessie is on a helicopter across the Pacific and the helicopter goes missing. So obviously he is presumed dead. Emma tries to move on from this and eventually starts to find love years later with Sam. They get engaged, she feels like she's found her second chance at happiness, and then Jessie returns home having been fighting to get back to her the whole time. Obviously she's got some decisions to make. She's going to work out who is her one true love. This one sounds like a really emotional one, just like The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. So yeah, let me know if you would like to see a reading vlog of these 2 books. Okay, finally I have some fantasy on my TBR. Obviously I've said before I have been off my fantasy game recently. I've not been reading anywhere near as much of it as I used to, but I do have some that I'd really like to get round to in 2022. So the first one is Spin the Dawn by Elizabeth Lim, and this one has been pitched to me as kind of like a Mulan retelling, and as soon as I heard that I was all over it. So Maya Tamarin dreams of being the greatest tailor in the land. However, in her Chinese society, I believe, that is not something a woman can ever do. All she can hope to do is marry well. So when her sick father is summoned to the royal court, Maya seizes her chance, disguises herself as a man and goes in his place in order to compete for the position of the imperial tailor. If she is found out, she risks her life, but if she is not, she could have all of her dreams come true. And in order to do this, she has to complete 3 challenges: to sew 3 magic gowns for the emperor's bride-to-be, 1 from the laughter of the sun, 1 from the tears of the moon, and 1 from the blood of the stars. This one just sounds like a really beautiful, engaging, magical read, but also with some really good feminist commentary as well. Next I have For the Wolf by Hannah Witten. This is basically a Red Riding Hood retelling, I believe, but it sounds like a really great one. I am a huge fan of retellings, but I feel like I don't read anywhere near enough, so if you have any good retelling recommendations, then please do let me know down below because I would love to get into more this year. So this one says, the first daughter is for the throne, the second daughter is for the wolf. But Red is the first second daughter to be born in centuries. Obviously then her only purpose is to be sacrificed to the wolf in order to save her kingdom. However, when she goes into the woods in order to sacrifice herself, she finds out that the wolf is actually not a monster but a man, and this magic that she has inside her that was supposed to be sacrificed is actually a calling, not a curse, and she must learn to use it in order to save her kingdom and save her world forever. This is a debut novel by Hannah Witton. It's supposed to be absolutely beautifully written. It's supposed to be this really dark, intriguing fantasy, and I really feel like it's one I'm gonna love. The next one I have is The 10,000 Doors of January by Alex E. Harrow. One of my absolute favourite books of last year was by Alex E. Harrow. That was The Once and Future Witches, so I've been dying to get around to another one of her books ever since, and I don't know why I've not picked this one up yet. This one follows January Scholar, who is the ward of the wealthy Mr. Locke, and she feels just like an outcast, very out of place in his big mansion with all of his perfect artifacts, but she then finds a strange book that tells a tale of secret doors, of love, adventure and danger, and January realises she can escape her story and sneak into someone else's. This one sounds magical, it sounds engaging. I just feel like it's going to be another one of those books that really draws me in and I just get lost in this magical world. Okay, the next one's not really a fantasy, it is a dystopian, and that is Docile by K.M. Sparra. Again, this is one I've been meaning to read forever, so I need to get around to it in 2022. So this one follows a world where if you have tons of debt, you can become a docile in order to pay that off. So you basically sell yourself off at auction for whatever the buyer wants you to be, whether that is like housekeeper, cook, cleaner, or even selling your body in order to pay off this debt. And in order to become like the perfect docile, they are often fed this drug called Docilene, I believe, which just, yeah, makes you into this perfect like subservient, hollow slave, I guess. And when Alicia Wilder, whose family has been ruined by debt handed down to them from previous generations, decides to become a docile in order to pay off these debts, he is adamant that he will never take Docilene. But he is then purchased by Alexander Bishop III, who is the brains behind Docilene and the whole debtor system. And when he refuses to take this drug, Alex is determined to turn him into the perfect docile without it. So yeah, this I think is just like it's supposed to be an absolutely incredible comment on capitalism and everything that is wrong with our society. It is going to be a very hard read. I think there's a lot of sort of trigger warnings for rape and abuse and things like that, but it's supposed to be an absolutely incredible book, more of like a science fiction, I guess. But yeah, it's just one I need to get around to. So that's actually it. Those are the 22 books that I want to read in 2022. Now comes the task of putting them all back in their rightful places on my bookshelf. But that is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please let me know if you've read any of these books, what your thoughts were on them, and if you think I will love them too. If you made it to the end of this video, then pop the skull emoji in the comments, purely because this is the first book that I picked up and it has a skull on it. So yeah, pop the skull emoji in the comments below just to let me know that you made it to the end of this video and that you enjoyed your time here. But as always, if you did enjoy the video, then do please give it a big thumbs up, subscribe for more bookish content from me, comment down below with any of your thoughts and feelings. I do reply to every single comment. I love you all and I will see you in my next one.